Never ever take off your blindfold. If you look, you will die. So says Sandra Bullock's character at the start of the film when addressing the kids. Besides a general outbreak and society reacting negatively towards it, her and the children encounter a series of harmful people. First, there is the river guy. All he wants them to do is to see the truth and to help. If you pay attention, it is she who gets violent with him, but we are led to think she does so out of survival. The next guy, who technically came before the children were born chronologically, is the one who is admitted into the house and talks about where he came from. He mentions a specific kind of group, the real world correlation to conspiracy theorists, and he says the scariest thing was they didn't need blindfolds. For us, the equivalent would be a mask. After this, we see this crazy guy's dark drawings, but analyze for yourself, where are they all coming from? His imagination. The general audience doesn't understand the baby scene either, and thinks he is cruel, when in reality, he's trying to save them so they can grow up and have actual lives, instead of ones that have been tainted by brainwashed fear and anxiety culture. I'm going to hammer this point in with more examples, but the ruling class wants us to pick up on what this movie is really alluding to. How if you really desire to live, you can't keep doing whatever government says, because that is in actuality committing suicide and wasting your life indoors under house arrest just because propaganda says so. You could be asymptomatic and you might feel great, but you have to consider others. The whole governing principle behind this rests upon a hypothetical, a chain. If there is a virus spreading, and you can look at my past videos if you want my opinion on that and all my research, if there is a virus spreading, then you might get infected, and perhaps you may end up passing it on, and someone else might also get infected, and they might do the same, and a sliver of the population may die, and that's what this whole thing just rests upon. One, maybe, perhaps, one fraction of a thing after another. So if you were to take this to its logical conclusion, to the other end, the extreme, besides the medical martial law that is happening, pretty soon maybe government will say, all right, does everybody have their body armor on? We don't want anybody getting paper cuts. Okay, is everybody encased within their bubbles? It would be so bad if somebody tripped. If you have taken any classes on microbiology and know anything about viruses or bacteria, then you would know how small of a portion can actually hurt you, and a majority are neutral. Like maybe some, if they have an opportunity, they'll take it, but a majority are neutral, and they could go either way. They don't really care, and quite a few are even good for you. And we've been implanted with this idea that germs are so bad, we need to disinfect everything, but really, head to toe, you're covered in them, and they're in your insides too, like it's a natural part of life. And what this really comes down to is a fear campaign, because the elites, they just do the same thing over and over. So the last time, another big one they did was during the Cold War and the mounting tensions between America and Russia, when in actuality, they always control both sides and they just hype up the propaganda. So, for example, they had school children drilled, like a nuke can land in your city at any moment, so when you hear this bell, you got to dive under your desk. But if a nuke were to land in your city, that wouldn't help you at all. It would obliterate everything. The only way that you would make it out alive is if you were so far out in the countryside and you hid under your desk, and let's say your roof did collapse, that then you'd be protected from the rubble. But what the real reason behind all of that was to traumatize one generation after another of this fear of you can die at any moment. So it's the same thing they're doing now and traumatizing our kids with wear a mask, who knows what will happen to you. They, like I've said before, they come up with these things in think tanks because there is a grand plan. Watch some of my other videos if you want to know what that is. It's so insane the level of mind control the media has over people, and really this movie is a drawn out metaphor for dying mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, while confined under quarantine. If you disagree with the analogy, allow me to elaborate. The film makes all the sane people seem delusional and all the sheep like heroes, which I'll show as a reoccurring theme. Watch how every weirdo exclaims life to be beautiful, but in our world, binge watching shows, getting addicted to games and apps on your phone, and staring at the walls of your house inside out of sheer boredom, that's not life. The true suicide comes from people not being able to handle the truth. That all of civilization, as we know it, is set up and directed by the puppeteers who pull all the strings and say what is real, fact or myth, and what is not. It is so much easier for people to believe a lie and hallucinate a panic that is worse than the actual pandemic. As one former national leader tried to warn us, since he couldn't give everything away, seeing as all presidents, prime ministers, governors are just tools that answer to their real masters anyway, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. Albeit the wacko who pulls open the blinds, the shutters to let the light in, the truth, he seems like a villain. It is the people cowering in their houses all over the world that are the victims. They are the half-dead zombies that care about the news instead of living fulfilling and heroic lives of their own, overflowing with common sense and original thoughts. Examine how in the baby scene he only acts out in violent retaliation, self-defense, when the bald guy shoots at him. Then, when he kills the narrow-minded bald man, he even says, I'm sorry, because he was only trying to wake him up. But some people will never accept the truth and they prefer denial. They'll keep on supporting the troops because they think they're sacrificing for freedom or protecting borders, defending borders from invasion. They'll keep on voting, thinking it will make a difference, and keep on working at slave jobs but calling it success or making a living, happy to have their peasant plots of land or paying rent for the rest of their lives, when the elites, the politicians, all the aristocrats, they have villas overlooking the ocean, they have mansions, they have palaces, they have vast estates. So all of the maskless people, those without a blindfold on, we're still talking about the movie, right? My mistake. All they want to do is help. The mean gang at the end is especially ferocious. Hold up. The very first thing they try and do is not hurt the father, but simply take off his blindfold, even though all of them are armed. Additionally, throughout the film, whenever we hear the whispering and ominous rustling, the wind acts as a psychological prop for moral and ethical groupthink, like save lives, wear a mask, as well as automatically getting scared when you hear someone cough, or becoming self-conscious yourself when you sneeze and you're expecting a bless you, but instead get an evil glare of, you should have stayed home, how inconsiderate. And our minds immediately, in both circumstances, jump to, virus.